grow in numbers. And according to Citizens Insurance, we will probably cross the $1 million threshold the $1 million policy number by the end of this year. One of the main causes of the increasing insurance rates that we're faced is because of fraud. And that's what brings us here today. Insurance fraud, it's messy, it's complex, it takes time to prosecute. For example, in 2014, citizens noticed a suspicious number of claims that involved a public adjusting firm, a water mitigation company, and a Miami-based law firm. Citizens discovered through this pattern 5,000 claims were filed against the state-backed insurers of last resort. So these cases were then referred to our insurance fraud investigative division. These were suspicious because the claims never came directly from the policyholder. They came 30 to 45 days afterwards, after the damage was done, after the damage and the debris was in the landfill, and these were also often litigated cases. So as our investigators combed through 400 of these cases, it became clear that the Miami-based law firm Strems was a major player in the fraud. Now, through a sophisticated strategy, the Strems firm would collude with a public adjuster and then a water mitigation company to submit inflated claims to citizens as well as other private insurers in our state. Citizens took the evidence, filed a lawsuit against the Strems law firm and its partners for violating different federal and state racketeering acts, in addition to the Florida Deceptive, Unfair, and Trade Practices Acts, in addition to fraud. Almost immediately after the suit was filed by citizens, the fraudulent conduct that had cost the state millions of dollars stopped. So remember, this is fraud. This is a crime. So I'm proud here today with our folks and the citizens folks, to announce a settlement has been reached with the Strems law firm and its co-defendants. In addition to stopping this multi-million-dollar scheme dead in its tracks, $1 million will be returned back to Citizens Insurance, the insurance company of last resort that the state of Florida has been the creator of. I would like to have y'all to please join me in praising and giving my guys a round of applause. The importance of this is the single largest settlement in the history of Citizens Insurance by a single entity. Had this fraud continued unchecked, it would ultimately cost the taxpayers of the state of Florida $16 million a year. Because this misconduct was discovered, the investigation, the Strems firm has now been disbanded. 2 of its attorneys, including Scott Strems, has been suspended by the Florida Supreme Court. Moreover, the criminal authorities are continuing to investigate this matter on criminal charges. Now, this is what we need to share, is the policyholders need to know that this type of activity is fraud, and this type of litigation increases their policy premiums. This is why your insurance rates are going up. According to the Coalition of Insurance Fraud, fraud occurs in about 10% of all claims that have been filed. The coalition surveyed insurance carriers in 2019. That report showed that 84 of those carriers had experienced increases in because of fraud, increase in litigation because of fraud. Litigation is a big problem. Florida accounts, this is a statistic I do not want you to miss. Florida accounts for 9% of all claims nationally, but it also accounts for 79% of all litigation nationally. So we are just a factory of litigation in the state of Florida, and we have got to change this culture. One report shows that the newly litigated claims raised in March, 12% over the February's numbers. Also, the intent to sue this year has raised over 24%. Luckily for policyholders, there is a chance to rein in these rates. I appreciate the wisdom and vision and sight and leadership of Governor Ron DeSantis, as he has called a special session later this month to reform policy insurance policies in the state of Florida, but specifically to curb frivolous litigation and fight fraud. Florida's communities are under attack by fraudsters who are willing to do anything to game the system. And frankly, they are stealing from every single one of us. To win this war, we need troops, we need the weapons, and we need a commitment to see this mission through to the end. So in this special session, my office will be pushing forward 5 different initiatives aiming at cracking down the kind of fraud and litigation that drives up rates on every single one of us. The first proposal will be stand up 3 new anti-fraud homeowner squads. These squads will be in addition to the 2 that the legislature funded last year that are along the I-4 corridor. To stand up these squads, the department will request for 23 new positions, 15 detectives, 3 supervisors to work the cases, 3 attorneys, and 1 administrator to prosecute the cases, and 1 analyst to help expedite the investigations. These teams will cover Jacksonville, Fort Lauderdale, and Miami. The teams will live and breathe property insurance fraud, and they will give state attorneys good cases in order to prosecute and accelerate at a pace where these fraudsters can be sent to jail. By placing these new teams in areas where lots of fraud occurs, not only will we hold those criminals accountable, we'll provide more deterrence and ultimately potential savings to the homeowners of the state of Florida. Second, I'm proposing $3 million in fraud and public education campaign. In many instances, especially we see it after Northwest Florida saw it, hometown of Panama City where Hurricane Michael hit. We saw it there. Policyholders don't understand that they're signing their rights away. They are literally giving a blank check to the rights to their claim to somebody they may not even know personally across their doorstep. They don't know that litigation that could take place will slow down their claim, or it may even result in a lien against their property. And I remind people all the time, if it sounds too good to be true, it is. Moreover, these fraudsters need to know when they break the law, they will go to jail. The level of fraud that is occurring in Florida's communities really needs to be curbed, and we need a comprehensive, well-funded public education campaign to combat these complex cases. Third, for key TAM cases, we're proposing to amend Florida's False Claims Act to allow whistleblowers to recover damages. Key TAM cases are where the general public can file a whistleblower claim over fraud without necessarily being a victim or not necessarily being part of the fraud taking place. This is a reporting mechanism that will incentivize the public to come forward and report the fraud taking place. This dovetails into our 4th proposal, which is going to incentivize people financially to call our Florida Fraud Fighter tip line. Currently, right now, the way that tip line works and the reward works, it's only if a conviction takes place. We want to change the terms of that it's not just a conviction, but an arrest. So those tipsters are now eligible for $25,000 to get that program in a position where we're having more participation with the general public. And finally, our 5th proposal will make changes to the AOB laws, including banning the bundling of these assignment of benefits. I want to restate that the assignment of benefits, it is literally assigning your benefits to somebody else. So what we want to do is make sure the public is aware of exactly what this activity is. Much of the fraud and abuse in our legal system we have highlighted this morning started with a policyholder assigning their benefits away to somebody else, to a fraudster. We cannot allow law firms, public adjusters to get into the business of bundling these AOBs and selling them the same way you would a security for a profit. I want to deter this feeding frenzy of bad actors going after our consumers to sell AOBs on the open market, which again ultimately drives up rates, which drives carriers out of the state of Florida because the environment allows that type of activity to exist in the first place. I'm so happy and proud of Governor DeSantis' leadership in ensuring this special session is going to address specific things like this. We need to stop this practice dead in its tracks, and we'll work with the legislature this session to ban exactly that. I'd like to invite up Barry Gilway to come up. Barry is the president and CEO of Citizens Insurance. He's been running Citizens now for close to 10 years, and through difficult waters, Barry has done simply an exceptional job, and the state of Florida is lucky to have him. Barry?
Thank you, CFO. Sir. So thank you, CFO Patronis. The one issue I think on everyone's mind, everyone we talk to, is why are my premiums going up? Every premium across the state for virtually every single company, premiums are skyrocketing. And it has to stop. And one of the ways that we're attempting to address the premium issue is taking a hard line on fraud. It's not new news. Joe Theobald, our head of strategic Special Investigations Unit, and his team, and Jay Adams, our Chief Claims Officer, is doing an amazing job. They have been focusing on this intensely for years. But one of the ways that Citizens is really attempting to keep the premiums down and realistic is really going after fraud and going after the abuse. Because the bottom line is, these fraudulent claims, they go into your rate and you're paying for them. And people miss that. You are paying for these fraudulent claims. So if your neighbors are putting on a new roof and they're thrilled that, hey, geez, I just got a free roof. Trust me, it's not a free roof. You are paying for your neighbor's roof in many, many cases. So on this issue, I'm really excited because in March, we did agree to settle with South Florida law firm, public adjusting company, and water mitigation company that we contend were working in collusion relative to developing and then putting in claims, developing the claim, et cetera. So we contend that this was a fraudulent ring, and most of it, in our case, involved non-weather water, non-wind-driven, non-weather water, claims. So under the settlement, as the CFO indicated, that was finalized, Citizens will be paid $1 million to dismiss a racketeering lawsuit filed against Strems law firm, Contender Claims Consultants, which is an adjusting firm, and AARS Water Mitigation Company. And they're all working in conjunction with one another. While Strems and the defendants, they continue, to deny that they've done any wrongdoing. Our contention remains exactly the same, that they certainly were colluding. So let me talk about the settlement. While the payout of $1 million is a big payout, that's not the real secret here. We get $1 million, and that's what gets the headlines. But here's the real issue. While this was occurring, before we filed the RICO lawsuit, we had as high as $34 million a year in claims coming through. 600 claims a year coming from this group. 600 claims a year coming from this group. And guess what? We filed the RICO lawsuit, and how many claims did we get last year? 0. And how much did we pay out in claims? 0. We shut the mechanism down solid. Claims just simply stopped. Why? Because we're really providing that level of visibility to these individuals, and they just couldn't continue, with that practice. So we didn't get there overnight. This is not a recent development. We've been working on this specific ring for close to 6 years, developing it slowly but surely. And we really got traction when we moved forward with the investigation with these investigators behind me, and the cooperation that existed between Joe Theobald's unit and his 33 investigators and these ladies and gentlemen was exceptional. And as a result, we're very, very closely together to bring all of this to a conclusion. So 6 years later, here we are. And as the CFO indicated, investigations are ongoing. And we can't obviously comment on the specific investigations, but they are ongoing. But here's what you're up against. Citizens processes right around 3,500 to 4,000 new claims per month. So you've got all these claims flowing into the company. Joe Theobald and his group, along with the non-litigated claims unit under Jay Adams, they are searching for the details and the connections in all of these claims, and have models that really analyze for every claim, who's the adjuster, who's the water mitigation company, to see if you can find the commonalities that would lead you, to the conclusion that there's collusion. So it's an amazing, it's a very, very difficult challenge. And of course, as the CFO mentioned, we're not the only ones looking at STREMS. This is just citizens. And STREMS was, doing the same thing for other, insurance companies. In fact, the Florida Bar in 2020 initiated disciplinary action against Scott STREMS, the firm's principal, and the Florida Supreme Court suspended STREMS for 2 years. The firm was dissolved, but is now doing business under another name. Just last week, the High Court suspended another STREMS attorney in an unrelated case. So just a closing thought. The takeaway from all of this is that this activity's got to intensify. And I'm thrilled to hear the CFO, announce all of these different aspects that frankly will make such a huge difference. And this focus, I think, is just going to be exceptional. So over the 7 years, Joe's team of 33 investigators, forensic experts, and staff, they have arrested during this period 120 individuals. And that continues, including 5 just in the last 5 months. And more importantly, their efforts to stop these bad actors from committing fraud really is going to deter many, many others from taking the same route. So none of this would have been possible, frankly, without Joe Theobald's leadership. He's the head of our SIU organization. Jay Adams, our Chief Claims Officer, and without any question, the incredible cooperation, CFO, that we've received from your folks. So it's been extraordinary, and without it, we would not be at this point today. So with that, we're open for questions.
Yes.
This is for you, CFO.
Okay.
So this fraud has been happening since 2014. The 375-page lawsuit outlines the fraud that has been committed against all Floridians, because fraud against citizens is fraud against all of us.
Mm-hmm.
You were elected to go after fraud. Why aren't you announcing criminal charges today, and what message is that sending to other bad actors, including associates of these defendants?
Every year, and thank you for that question, every year that I've been in office, about 5 years now, we have had 3,500 odd arrests, but that goes across auto insurance, health insurance, life insurance. We have got just a whole gamut of insurance types of fraud cases that we investigate. We have made 189 arrests specific over the last 5 years that have been related to property casualty insurance fraud. Of those 189, about 150 of them have been prosecuted. And of those 100, of all the cases, we have presented about 260 to state's attorneys. So we are making the case for, again, more resources. We're making an argument with our Attorney General's office for specific prosecutors in order to make sure that the cases that these incredible men and women bring to light and develop and turn over to a state attorney ultimately becomes prosecuted to the full extent of the law, and those bad actors go to jail.
I'm just not understanding. It's been 6 to 8 years the lawsuit lays out the fraud, why isn't there criminal charges?
Again, we have an environment where the Florida legislature is going to meet later this week, later this month, in a couple weeks. It is a game of whack-a-mole, as Mr. Gilway has pointed out, where you've got one attorney who we have stopped dead in their tracks, has gone and created a whole new operation under another set of assumed names. The legislature allows this type of businesses to exist legally, and it's not that they are doing it on purpose, but as individuals are clever to be able to, as individuals are clever, I'm sorry, that shouldn't happen. As individuals are clever in order to live inside of Florida statutes, criminals know how to exploit those statutes. That's exactly why a special session is being called to, in my hopes, close those loopholes.
Do we need help from federal law enforcement?
You know, I'm sure at some point there could be a multi-state jurisdiction issue over this, but, you know, I think the men and women that we have here working on behalf of our Department of Insurance and Forensic Services are equipped to do it, but do we need more boots on the ground? Sure. When it comes time to trying to set up a sting operation, the type of work that must go into a sting, the transparency, the liability to make sure that there was not some type of entrapment, it's difficult. It's difficult. It's hard to say that we can just set up this trap in the middle of the room and we're going to catch every single criminal that's gaming the system, because we have got to have an airtight case. It's just as Barry pointed out, this has taken a number of years to get where we are today. To the point where they were able to get a settlement. We have brought to light, we have created awareness. We have partners like WLA in this particular case that are going to bring to light that people are actually losing their law license or stopping business. But then again, it's whack-a-mole. It's whack-a-mole. And that's why I can't express enough. This all starts from one action of an assignment of benefits. If somebody comes to your doorstep and expresses to you, I'm a licensed Florida contractor, let me inspect your house. Well, that sounds harmless enough. And as they go and they find something that could be damage from a storm, they may even manufacture damage with their own tools. At the end of the day, I'm going to take care of it because I'm going to work with your insurance company to get this terrible damage to your house dealt with. You just need to assign me over your benefits. That comfort, when you assign it, you are literally giving your claim, your rights to whatever proceeds that insurance claim might provide to you and your family. You're giving it to maybe somebody you just met 5 minutes ago who is a licensed Florida contractor. None of that sounds illegal because it's not. But what you've created is you've created a gaming of the system that ultimately drives up rates, makes carriers leave the state, and everything that I just explained to you right now didn't break the law.
All right, last question we got here.
Anybody else?
Okay, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Appreciate y'all. Thank you so much for being here. Thank y'all. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks. Of course. Thank you. Thank you.